This is the prayer of our sisters and brothers. This is the prayer supporting all others we say. So we'll say it again. This is the prayer of our fathers and mothers. This is the prayer of our sisters and brothers. This is the prayer supporting all others we say. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Everything is God, everything is one. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai. This is the prayer of our fathers and mothers. This is the prayer of our sisters and brothers. This is the prayer supporting all others we say.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'elech asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'v'lechtecha b'derech, u'v'shokbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue on page 39.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot oseh pele, nora tehilot oseh Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Malchutecha rahu banecha, hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam ze Eli anu ve'amru ze Eli anu ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Page 42
And 43.
and 43. Let there be love.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do so, to do your will.
That's good.
Baruch.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, L'shalom. Ve'ha'amidenu, Shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha. Hashivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashivenu, L'shalom. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Page 44.
Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Adonai Sephatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
I'd like to call up Noah.
Page 55.
May these hours of rest and renewal open up our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise.
Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Utefilatam be'ahavati kabel. Utefilatam be'ahavati kabel. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Utehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael Amecha. Utehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael Amecha. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato l'Tzion.
Page 59.
Call up.
Marnie. Where'd Marnie? Whoops. Read.
Okay. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, or light within, for the world around us, so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all of these and more, we offer thanks.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulechana el lehodot. On page 60 is our anthem of peace, Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'neinecha livarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
We call to mind now those in our families, our circles of friends, our neighbors, and in the wider world who are broken in body, mind, or spirit, offering them our blessings of healing and wholeness. You can find this evening's Misha Berach on page 253.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We pray for healing for Betty Cohen, Amy Cooper, Char DeGrave, Liz Daniel, Elizabeth Draper, Andrew Fisher, Beatrice Fry, Jacob Gluckman, Nita Hicks, Ron Homan, Dick Calvin, Ivy Kirschenbaum, Chris Kuntz, Stephen Margolis, Jim Rudisil, Deborah Sanders, Randy Scharf, Julie Sherman, Jean Schimmel, Donna Wade, Leslie White, and Bob Ward, as well as all of those who are lovingly remembered in the live stream chat. And if you have names you'd like to add here in person, I invite you as our gazes meet.
Mi sheberach imotenu bekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We invite you to take a moment of silence. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi veyom libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Vegoali Tzuri Vegoali. May the words of my mouth and the acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali tzuri vegoali.
Did y'all get the paper in the back? The text, to pray or not to pray for rain? Did you get it? If you didn't, feel free to walk back there because you'll want it in a few minutes. So one of the things, in addition to starting to count the Omer on the second night of Pesach, is that we also change our prayers for rain. So all winter long, starting from Shmini Atzeret, which is the end of Sukkot, which we put together with Simchat Torah, so way back in the fall, we began to pray Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagashem in the middle of the Gvurot prayer, which is during the Tefillah. It's a little insert that says, who brings about the wind and makes the rain fall. And then that changes during Pesach, when we start to just pray for dew. So that seems counterintuitive because who's praying for rain in the middle of the winter? And why aren't we, our little adage here in the United States is April showers bring May flowers, right? So this should be the rainy season. And the reason is because we're actually praying for the rain in Israel. So that's when Israel has its rainy season, is starting after Sukkot. The harvest is over, and there needs to be some early rains, and then there's some thick winter rains, and then it should trail off by now so that the crops can grow. That's the agricultural cycle. And so I wanted to make mention of it because we went through last week and nobody's eyebrows even raised when we switched over. So that was one reason why I wanted to bring it up, just to pay attention to the time in the Jewish calendar. But also here we are in our first Hard Locks weekend looking at a little bit of rain. So it got me thinking about prayers for rain in our tradition. Prayers for rain. And so I put together a bunch of texts to answer the question of, should we pray that there not be rain on Sunday? Is that kosher? Is it kosher to pray that there not be rain on Hard Locks? So I hope you'll find this fun and that you'll have an answer by the end of what you might want to what kind of conversation you might want to have with the Holy Blessed One. So I wanted to, I hope that this is in an order that makes some sense, but the initial thing that I wanted to lay out is that prayers for rain are as old as the beginning of time in our tradition. And so this first text comes from the Babylonian Talmud, and it's the result of the Rabbi Asi, seeing that there's a contradiction in the creation story. And so he's pointing out that one verse says, and the earth brought forth grass. That's in verse 12 of chapter 1, referring to the third day of creation. Whereas another verse, speaking about the sixth day, later on, is no shrub of the field was yet in the earth because God had not sent rain upon the earth, and there were no human beings to till the soil. And what Rabbi Asi says is, this teaches that the plants commenced to grow but stopped just as they were about to break through the soil until Adam, the first human, came and prayed for rain for them. And when rain fell, they sprouted forth. This teaches you, says Rabbi Asi, that the Holy Blessed One craves the prayers of the righteous. So from the beginning of time, there's this dynamic set up that rain is something we're supposed to yearn for and pray for, and then our crops will grow. So here's the second idea, is that the timing of the rain is critical and crucial, and we either merit getting it or we don't. So there are two texts in this. The first one is from Devarim, also known as Deuteronomy, where it says, if then you obey the commandments that I enjoin upon you this day, loving the Lord your God and serving him with all your heart and soul, I will grant the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the late rain. So this Deuteronomy text is laying out two things. Number one, there's a quid pro quo. There's a quid pro quo. It's part of the dynamic when we're in alignment with God's laws, then God makes the rains fall in just the right time. So remember when I said that the rainfall in Israel kind of goes on a bell curve. There's the early rain, which needs to be really light, because anyone who is planting seeds now knows you can't drown those poor little seeds or the poor little seedlings. But once they're nice hardy plants, you want lots of rain to grow. And then as they're coming down, you also don't want your fruits and your vegetables to get moldy, so you don't want lots of rain at the end of a harvest, because then you get moldy, disgusting produce, right? Does that all make sense? So there's early rains and there's late rains, and you don't want those to be big rains. You just want the middle to be nice and healthy. And so being in alignment with God produces that result, that you get just the right rains, just the right times. And then there's an interesting thing here that I found, that there's actually a prayer for rain in a traditional Ashkenazic Siddur. And in that prayer for rain, there is invoked an angel that is in charge of the rain. And that angel, according to the Mate Levi, is called Af Bri, because rain is sometimes an expression of divine anger, and at other times it is a blessing, which contributes to the health of mankind. So the Af is the anger, and oftentimes in biblical imagery, we see God like flaring God's nostril, and an Af is a nose, and so that's where the Af part comes from, is the anger part. Can you see that at home? And the brie is, la briut is what we say after somebody sneezes, so it means to your health. So there's this anger, and then there's this health. And rain is a tool, according to this ancient tradition, of knowing whether or not you are in alignment. That sometimes God will send torrential rains, and that's not good, and we should understand that as, there's something we need to do to be in better alignment. Or when things are really good, we should feel that we are in alignment. So the next idea is that we pray for rain today, even. So you remember on Sukkot, I've talked oftentimes about how the lulav and etrog is a rain stick with all the different types of species that accept rain in different ways. And so the palm frond gets its rain or it's water from deep, deep, deep beneath the ground, and a willow tree has to be planted near waters so that it is nourished by flowing waters. And a myrtle is an opportunistic plant, and so it has to get its water from rainfall that comes and goes, and so it has to make do with whatever comes from the sky. And does anybody know where an etrog gets its water? From people, exactly, from people. So those are the 4 different styles of ways that water nurtures plants. And so at the beginning of Sukkot, Rabbi Eliezer says, "It is since the 4 species, the lulav and the 3 other species taken with us, come only to offer appeasement for water as they symbolize the rainfall of the coming year. And this symbolism is as follows. Just as the 4 species cannot exist without water, as they need water to grow, so too the world cannot exist without water. Therefore, it is proper to mention rain in one's prayers when taking the 4 species." So we do this on Sukkot. And then, this is where the source is for how we know that we're supposed to change the prayer for rain during Pesach. This is from the Babylonian, this is actually from the Mishnah, from a whole section of the Mishnah which is about fasting. When do we end our prayers for rain? Rabbi Yehuda says until Passover has passed. Rabbi Meir says until the month of Nisan has ended, which is 2 weeks after Passover, right? Because Passover is right in the middle of the month. On the 3rd of Mar Cheshvan, once this is back in the fall. On the 3rd of Mar Cheshvan, one starts to request rain. Rabban Gamliel says on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan, 15 days after the Sukkot festival, so that the last pilgrim of the Jewish people can reach the Euphrates River without being inconvenienced by rain on his journey home. And I made the note there that here is a hint that rain is not always desirable, and maybe we can delay our prayers for rain so as not to inconvenience ourselves. So just bookmark that idea for a moment, because it would be a big inconvenience if it rains on hard locks, right? Am I right? Although we'll make the best of it, right? Am I right? Yeah. Are you with me? Okay. So what happened? Now we're talking about people who live in the Middle East. It's dry there. Rain is super important. So they had problems with drought often. So what did the rabbi say when we were supposed to do when the rain doesn't fall, right? If there's this connection between us, our prayers for rain, God sending the rain, what's the remedy when there's no rain? What do? So here's the continuation of that Ta'anit text, that fasting text. If the 17th of Mar Cheshvan has arrived, so if the latest time that we're going to pray for rain has arrived and there's not been any rain, individuals, but not the entire community, can begin to fast 3 fasts for rain. How are these fasts conducted? As the fast begins in the morning, one may eat and drink after dark, and one is permitted during the days of these fasts themselves to engage in work, in bathing, in putting oil on one's body, which was like deodorant, and wearing shoes, and you can have conjugal relations with your partner. If the moon of Kislev, now we're already like deep in the winter because this is right before Hanukkah. If it gets to almost Hanukkah, or no, the new moon is the beginning of Kislev, so it's a month before Hanukkah, arrives and rain still hasn't fallen, the court decrees 3 regular fasts on the entire community. So now we're building. The first is individuals can kind of do this informally. Then now there's it's a community crisis. If it already gets to be the new moon of Kislev, we're in trouble. We're all banding together and we're doing these fasts. If these 3 regular fasts have passed and they haven't been answered with rain, the court decrees 3 other fasts on the community, and these are severe fasts. in which one may eat and drink only while it is still day, before the beginning of the night of the fast, and on the day of the fast itself. They are prohibited to engage in work, in bathing, in deodorant, in wearing shoes, in marital relationships, and they lock the bathhouses so that nobody should come and bathe on that day. And if this 3 fasts have passed and still there's no rain, the court decrees on them 7 additional fasts, which are a total of 13 fasts upon the community. And these 7 fast days are more severe even than the first ones. And on these days, in addition to all of the earlier stringencies, they sound the alarm and they lock the stores. And on Monday, they open them a little at nightfall to allow people to purchase food. And on Thursday, you can open all the stores because you got to gather your stuff for Shabbat. And if these fasts have passed and they have not been answered, the court does not decree additional fasts, but the entire community observes the customs of mourning. They decrease their engagement in business transactions, in building and planting and betrothals and marriages. These are all things we do when we're in mourning, and in greetings between each person and his fellows, like people who have been rebuked by God. I read another commentary that says, you don't do any more fasting because you're already beyond the period where rain should fall. So if rain hasn't fallen, you don't want to ask for it in a time when it shouldn't fall. But this idea that you could go with these, that there is this stepping with increased severity until and it impacts one's whole life, and that everybody in the community is banding together to do this, to make sure that rain actually comes to everybody. Very powerful stuff, and they did this. So then the question becomes, if rain is such a powerful thing, and most of the time we want it, is it permissible to pray for rain to stop? That's what we're here to talk about, right? But let's just go on a tiny little detour to learn about Honi Hama'agel. You may remember Honi Hama'agel because he's probably most familiar to you because he was the guy who is famous for knowing that he should plant the date palm trees, even though he's never going to see fruit from them in his lifetime, that somebody else planted trees so that he would enjoy dates, and that's the reason why we plant for future generations. But he's called Honi Hama'agel, Honi the circle maker, because of a variety of stories, this being one version of them, where essentially he draws a circle and says, I'm not moving until it rains, like the Buddha. I'm not moving until I'm enlightened. Well, he says, I'm not moving until it rains. So let's read his story. Although too much rain may be disastrous, one does not cry over it because rain is a sign of blessing. The Mishnah relates an incident that occurred in which the people said to Honi Hama'agel, pray that rain should fall. And he said to them, go out and bring in the clay ovens used to roast your paschal lambs so that they will not dissolve in the water, as torrential rains are certain to fall. He prayed, and no rain fell at all. So what did he do? He drew a circle on the ground and stood inside it and said before God, Master of the universe, your children have turned their faces towards me, as I am like a member of your household. Therefore, I take an oath by your great name that I will not move from here until you have mercy on your children and answer their prayers for rain. And what happened? Rain began to trickle down, but only a teeny tiny bit. And he said to God, I didn't ask for this, but for rain to fill our cisterns and our ditches and our caves with enough water to last the entire year. And then the rain began to fall furiously. And then he said, I didn't ask for this damaging rain either, but for rain of benevolence, blessing, and generosity. Subsequently, the rains fell in their standard manner, but continued unabated, filling the city with water until all the Jews exited the residential areas of Jerusalem and went to the Temple Mount, which was higher, a little higher, due to the rain. And they came and said to Honi, just as you prayed over the rains that they should fall, so too pray that they should stop. And he said to them, go out and see if the claimant stone, a large stone located in the city upon which proclamations would be posted with regard to lost and found articles, see if that stone has been washed away. In other words, if the water has not obliterated the claimant stone, it's not yet appropriate for the rain to cease. And so there was a reticence on Honi's part to pray for the rain to stop, because if it hadn't reached this really bad part where it had washed away the super important place in the middle of the city where lost and found articles could be found and returned to their owners, then he wasn't going to stop. Shimon ben Shetach, a different person who was the president of the Sanhedrin, their organization, their court at the time, relayed to Honi Hama'agel, were you not you, I would have decreed that you be ostracized. But what can I do to you? You nag God, and God does your bidding, like a son who nags his father, and his father does his bidding without reprimand. After all, the rain fell as you requested. About you, the verse states, let your father and mother be glad, and let her who bore you rejoice. So if it wasn't for Honi, they would cast this person aside because he was a little chutzpahdik to God, right? But it seems like, well, God responds to you, so what can I do? So now, finally, can we pray that there not be rain on hard locks? This is the back. And this comes from a Hasidic teacher from the 19th century, the founder of the Ishbitzer dynasty, Rabbi Moshe Leiner, in his book, The Mei HaShiloach, which actually means the water that is gathered. And this is what he says. Thus it is with the entire community of Israel. This was a continuation, so I took it from a longer piece, so don't worry about the context. I hope I will be able to explain it. For they are, as it were, the limbs and the organs of the Holy One, blessed be he. Therefore, if one member of Israel wants to do an action from which he will receive benefit, he must make clarifications before doing so. For if he only looks after his own benefit and not for the benefit of the community of Israel, then he himself will be, God forbid, harmed by that action. This is like praying for a cessation of rain, for the convenience of travelers during a time when rain is needed for everyone. Then he too will be harmed by this among the whole community of Israel, like one who eats much honey. The damage that is done to the rest of the body will eventually reach his tongue. If he considers his way enough so that his action will not affect all of Israel adversely, but it is against God's will, even down to a boundary instituted by a codifier of law, then he will not derive any benefit from this. But if it is God's will, then he may do what his heart desires. So let me unpack that for a moment. And that is to say, this is part of a discussion where Rabbi Leiner is asking, can you do certain things, and even though they might have implications? And he's encouraging us to think about what the ramifications are of our prayers for rain. So, for example, this is the rainy season. I've got seedlings in my backyard. You guys have vegetables. We got a vegetable garden out there. We kind of need the rain. The rain is sort of a good thing. So to pray that there not be rain, to not inconvenience us from hard locks, on the one hand, seems like not really the right thing to do because it's part of a bigger thing. But here's my conclusion that I wrote before. In general, Our collective prayers for rain are seasonal and are directed to the various kinds of rain that need to fall in the land of Israel for there to be abundance for all who live there. There are texts that give one individual permission, as opposed to collectively mandated prayer, to pray for rain when it is needed locally. Liner invites us to be clear about the consequences to the whole community of our individual prayers for rain, or in this case, for rain not to fall when it is not desirable for us. So I'm wondering, what do you think? This is where you speak.
I'm going to remain neutral.
Ginny.
Saturday or Monday is okay. I'm praying for that.
Great. That is such a great Jewish workaround. I want to tell you something. Pray for rain on Saturday or Monday. Then you get out from not praying for not rain, which is, not, I would say, to overstate it, it's frowned upon, and has consequences for the wider community and our earth. So I think that's a great workaround. Pray for the rain Saturday and Monday. Raymond.
So it can rain on Sunday, but just maybe in Weaverville.
Great. Rain that's another great workaround. Geographically, may it rain in Weaverville and stop at the border of Asheville City. How about that? Nicely done, people. Pat. Pray for rain tonight, let it all come out, and then it'll just be done, and we'll have a nice moist earth for Sunday. Beautiful. Rana.
The rain is really benefiting the entire community, not just individuals. So it's really important to pray that it not rain, because it's beneficial for all of us and for the greater community to see how it is that Jews observe holidays and have fun, and so it's a way to educate and enlighten other people. And for those reasons alone, it's a very good thing to pray for this holiday.
So because Hard Knocks is such an important educational and relational event that benefits the whole community, it is okay in your eyes to pray that it not rain so that all of that can unfold with ease and with as many people as possible. So that would be an example of saying it is to the benefit of Israel that it not rain. There was a little crack in the door there. I saw one hand over here. Yeah, Lean. The trickle. Or somebody could stand in Weaverville, this just reminds me, and draw a circle. Who's going to stand in Weaverville, Raymond, and draw the circle and say, make it rain here?
I've got to take orders.
Well, we'll see what happens. Oh, Tori.
Well, you could not pray for there not to be rain. You could also just not pray for there to be rain.
We could just let the prayers for rain go for this weekend. It's too late for the Morid Hatal, but the Tal would be okay. That would be like the droplets. Perfect. So let's just say geographically, instead of praying for the dew over there, we were praying just for a little dew here. That would be like the trickle. Perfect. Well done, y'all. Well, go have at it, man. It's up to, it used to be legend that, Cantor Deb would do some kind of crazy dance in her backyard and it wouldn't rain. And And, that sounds like something that could have come out of one of these texts, right? I'll do my best, but as my father used to say when people would ask him to pray that their racehorse would win the race, he would say, "I'm in sales, not administration." So I am delighted to invite you to rise. We have two things to do before Aleinu. One is to bless the month that is upcoming. This is Shabbat Mevarchim, so we announce when the new moon is going to grace us. So we'll do that first, and then we will count the Omer. Yehi ratzon milefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu shetechadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba letova v'livracha v'titen lanu chayim arukim, chayim shel shalom, chayim shel parnasa, chayim shetehevanu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim, chayim sheyimal u'mishalot libenu letova v'nomar amen. Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace, prosperity, a life exalted by the love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Rosh Chodesh Iyar Yihiyeh B'Yom Rishon, the new month of Iyar will begin on Sunday. And now we will say the blessing for the Omer, and I have just a little something that goes right before the singing. Hinani muchenet umezumenet lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer.
Hayom arba'a asar yom shehem shnei shavuot la'omer. This is the 14th day, totaling 2 weeks of the Omer. And we remain standing as I call anyone who is here who belongs to Boone's Sunday school class to join us on the bima for Aleinu. Noah, Ty, yeah, come on. On page 282. Move over. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tetz gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goralenu kechohamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamalchim, HaKadosh
Baruch Hu. No.
Please be seated. Page 287. Thanks, y'all. Sam and Kara, you're reading on page 287.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
A reading not in your Sidurim and your prayer books by Rabbi Rami Shapiro. Life and death, a twisted vine sharing a single root, a water bright green stretching to top a twisted yellow only to wither itself as another green unfolds overhead. One leaf atop another, yet under the next, a vibrant tapestry of arcs and falls, all in the act of becoming. Death is the passing of life, and life is the stringing together of so many little passings. Our thoughts turn now to all of those who have departed, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and our neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives are a blessing. We mention by name Ted Farrer, brother of Vic Farrer, and Alan Silverberg, father of Debbie Adams, who died in recent days and weeks. And we also acknowledge the yard sites, the anniversaries of the passings of Homer Argall, Daisy Levi Cohen, Hyman Dave, Henry Hyman, Francis Miller, Marshall Minner, Bessie Schneider, Hyman Meyer Rosen, Betsy Rosenberg, David Ryan, and Myron Zients, and all of those lovingly listed in the live stream chat. And if there are additional names to add in memory here in the sanctuary. If you're here remembering someone, I invite you to rise so that we might acknowledge your grief. And I invite the congregation to stand beside you as we all turn to page 294 and join in the mourner's Kaddish, grateful to God for the gifts of life and memory. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam olamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiram be'alma be'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, be'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, be'imru amen. Please be seated.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone, And so it is with people that we love. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ונם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המבהיקים בחשכת הליל, הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Raymond Capilouto, and I'm here representing our Board of Trustees this evening. And I'm honored to be able to welcome Boone Silverberg up to stand next to me as I present him with some gifts, honoring him becoming a Bar Mitzvah tomorrow morning. I learned something very cool about Boone. I don't know if it's a little-known fact or I'm just now learning about it. But Boone's got a pretty cool middle name. He's got two middle names, actually. But the one I want to mention, his middle name is Magic. And I can't think of a better name to describe this weekend, your big weekend. Because it's going to be magical. So that's really cool. First person I've known with that middle name. So we have for you, Boone, this really beautiful certificate signed by Rabbi and signed by Seth. That's good. Commemorating your really amazing achievement and all the hard work that you've put in to make this day and this weekend a reality. I have here a $250 gift certificate presented to Boone Silverberg for you to spend on a nifty high school summer or semester program in Israel. So oh boy, we've got some real oohs and ahs out there. If you haven't been, it's very cool. From the Brotherhood, this is a Tanakh, so that you may always remember to continue your Jewish studies, even when you're an old guy like me. And finally, from Sisterhood, this is a Kiddush cup, to help you remember the sweetness of Shabbat, especially this Shabbat. Mazel Tov to you, and everyone is welcome to be a witness to Boone's Bar Mitzvah service tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. You can leave this loot right here, and then you can come back for it. So, Hard Locks is this Sunday in Pack Square. Thank you, Rabbi, for all of that stuff about the rain. That was amazing. We have put a lot of thought. We meaning really the entire congregation has put a lot of thought and work and love into planning the return of this festival. So we hope everybody is planning on coming out to support our community's largest fundraiser. It's from 11 to 4, Pack Square. If you don't know where that is, that's literally the middle of downtown. Check out hardlocks.org for schedules and all the info that you might need. For anyone who is fairly new to Asheville or new to our community, the JCC is hosting a community newcomer event May 10th at 5:30 p.m. Brotherhood's Beer Fest. That's exactly what it sounds. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is a beer fest. It's May 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Sweeten Creek Brewery. RSVP to Joel Mazelis if you'd like to join the fun. It is fun, and Sweeten Creek Brewery is a really cool place out on Sweeten Creek Road. Thank you so much to the Silverberg family for sponsoring tonight's oneg in honor of Boone and his Bar Mitzvah. An oneg reminder, please gather in Dave Hall, that's right over there, and wait for everyone to have Kiddush and Motzi together as a community before we dive into the delicious food. We are still without a kitchen staff, so please make sure that you bus your own tables, and if you brought a dish, please take it with you when you leave. I would like to say a special welcome to everyone who is here as part of the friends and family that have traveled here for Boone's Bar Mitzvah. We welcome y'all, and if you had travels, we welcome y'all and wish you safe travels on your way back. We also have a little tradition that if you're a visitor here, not part of Boone's Bar Mitzvah happening, we want to hear about it. We want you to stand up, say your name, where you're from. I have this microphone here for you to do it in. I'm going to let the young person who's going to, Seth, that's a young person. I mean, he's kind of a young person. Who would like to take who would like to be the person who carries this around to our guests? Ah, yes, you in the orange yarmulke, young man. Just hand that to him, and the green light says it's on.
Any visitors?
Any visitors? There's some hand raisers.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thornburg. I am friends with Sabrina and many others here. And my friend Ann Louise will introduce herself next, but we have come to be part of your service tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Louise. Yeah.
Welcome. All right, we have some more.
Hi, I'm Merrill Epstein, and this is my wife Irene Epstein. We are visiting your fair city for 10 days, and so far it gets an A+, and we're halfway through. We live in two places. We live in Boca Raton, Florida. We're Florida residents. And we live in Burlington, Vermont, almost 6 months of the year. So we're really, in a way, halfbacks here. I don't know if we'll end up here or not, but at any rate, we've enjoyed it so far.
thank you for having us at your beautiful service.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm David Raskin, and this is my wife, Carol Fusilier. I'm here from the Bronx via Bradenton, Florida, but we just moved here, and thanks for letting us join your service tonight.
It's great to have you here.
Hello, my name is Brianna Delanoy. My family and I live in Waynesville, and we've lived there for quite some time, but we split our time between Miami and here, and so we look forward to becoming a constant member of the community, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to meet the rest of my family. But tonight's just me.
Great. We'll look forward to that.
Hi, my name's Karen Cooper. I've been here a couple times before, but I'm a guest still, and this is my son Renly, and we live in Flat Rock and schlep all the way up here. So yeah, I know. Adam, I talked to you. Mazel Tov. So we're here again for your beautiful service again tonight. He says that.
Welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Our closing song tonight is on page 340. 340. Ivdu et Hashem besimcha. So as we rise, that means serve God with joy. And maybe that'll prevent the rain from falling. Please rise.
Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, Bo lafana birnana, lafana birnana. Again, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, Bo lafana birnana, lafana birnana. Yalalai, 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 yalalai. Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, Bo lafana birnana, lafana birnana.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom at home.